There are hedge fund managers making $1 million an hour. I know it's crazy, right? It's money everywhere. It's money in everything. I want to help you. Start your business today. Come join my royal family. Subscribe to Casino Is the Name. Hey, yo, what's going on right now? You watching Casino Is the Name, and I cannot believe we are back here having this same conversation again. I just watched a video. Well, it was the other day I watched a video, maybe a day or two ago. And in that video, there was a financial guru who has a lot of real estate, who has a lot of money apparently. And he was advising that it is better to rent than to buy a house. And I can't even believe that people are even not only like listening to this, but they're believing it. Oh my God. Like, this is crazy because, first of all, let's just say this. Let's just throw this out there. Anytime there is an absolute, anytime somebody says, absolutely, this is 100% true, you should be skeptical. There's very few absolutes, like no loopholes, no other type of situations where this could not work in someone's favor. Whenever there's an absolute, there should be a concern. Should be a concern of yours. If anybody's saying this is absolutely the only way to get rich or the only way to do this is to do it this way. Anytime there's an absolute, or if somebody says that everybody should be doing this versus maybe this works for you, maybe this doesn't. Like, I'm an accountant, right? I would not tell everybody to go get an accounting degree. You have to have a certain personality. You have to have a certain desire. You have to have a certain willingness to be an accountant. You know, it may not work for you. You may be a very hands-on kind of person. You may need to be a mechanic. You may need to be a nurse because it may just be better for you. And anyway, he's basically saying that it is better to rent than to buy. And he put a lot of numbers up on his dry erase board computer screen thing. And I sat and I looked at those numbers, and those numbers were not accurate. And he jumped to he had a lot of assumptions about what different people's situation is. And basically, his entire statement was false for my personal situation. So I'm not the only one who would qualify for the things that I would qualify for, or who is in the position that I am in. And basically, his whole analogy makes no sense off of a few key principles, right? Let's look at the fact that he's comparing an apartment to a $250,000 house. Okay? Now, I don't know about you or where you live, but if you were in an apartment and let's say the average one-bedroom apartment in Atlanta rents for about $1,380. I don't know if that's what it currently is. I should pull this up. That's just what it was when I bought this house, right? This house, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. It is over 3,000 square feet. The apartment that me, my brother, and his cousin moved from was 1,400 square feet, which was a decent size apartment for what it was. It was pretty big for an apartment. It was a 3-bedroom apartment, 2 bath, and it was decent. You know, it wasn't like super, like it wasn't a house, but it was also, you know, not like super small either for an apartment. Believe me, apartments can run extremely small. But anyway, so when I got ready to move out closer to the city, or move closer to the city, because at the time we were in Douglasville. So as I decided to move closer towards Atlanta, the apartments went up, and especially during the time frame that we had first started renting to in that 10 months period, because I was only going to rent for 10 months, no more than that. I don't believe in renting, basically. And so I was looking for a house. Well, I was actually looking for another apartment to get closer to the city. But when I was looking at the prices, when I saw $1,380 was the average price, and guess what? There was no availability. There was like no availability. I would have to move into like a rundown apartment to get anything $800-900 a month. And the thing about apartments is they'll say the rent is this, but then they'll add these additionals on top of the rent, different kind of fees or whatever. So your rent might be $1,300, but you end up paying like $1,450 or $1,500 when they add all of these additional fees, whatever they are. Anyway, so at the time when I was looking up the average apartment rent, you know what? Let me look it up right now. But just curious. But in Atlanta at the time, and this was 2016, I believe, the average rent in Atlanta for a one-bedroom apartment was $1,380. And I thought that was crazy, right? Not a two-bedroom, not a three-bed, like $1,380 for a one-bedroom apartment. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go buy a house. Now, this is my second house, so I know the value you can get when you buy a house, right? So anyway, this whole analogy. Now, mind you, I bought this house, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, for $1,371 was what my mortgage was. It's $1,254 now. And this is with taxes and insurance included in that, right? So I'm looking at apartments, and as long as I was under $1,380, I was fine with whatever the house cost, because that was my mindset. As long as I'm not paying that for an apartment, I'm fine. So I found a house, built it. I actually built this house for that amount. So for that amount per month. So $1,371 was what my mortgage was. Now, to compare, say a $250,000 house like what this person was doing, I'm not going to call his name because I hear people can be sued, but what this person was doing was comparing a $250,000 house to an apartment, paying actually less than what you would normally be paying in that apartment, right? And he was like, yeah, you will pay less, maybe $200-300 less per month, but you still have the freedom to move. Now, outside of maybe your job going away, maybe you being fired or something like that, the reason that people move is they're trying to find a nicer place or more space. Maybe they had a child, maybe they moved in with someone else. My brother rented his apartment for years, but until I moved back to go from his 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom so that I could join in as a roommate, he had no real reason to leave there. And then when we left there, we both moved into houses. We both bought our houses. But the reason why people move up is for nicer places and for more space. And they may rent for 10, 20 years in the same apartment complex. It might go from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, and then from a 3-bedroom back to a 2-bedroom, or wherever, however their life shapes up. But a large part of the reason that people are moving is because they don't have adequate space for their life. You know, they had a child, they had another child, they got a new girlfriend, got a new boyfriend, whatever it is. And so they need a little more space. But if you go ahead and you handle that, when you go ahead and get the space, if you go ahead and move into a 4-bedroom and it's just you, or it's 2 of you, then you have that room already. And then if you're there for a while, 5, 10 years, and you're ready to move up, the value of your property usually has gone up as well. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen with, the pandemic and everything like that. But the value of your property would have usually gone up. And then when you were ready to move in 10 years, you might have actually walked away with some money. I just saw a lady get a $100,000 check because, husband and wife was just in their house for, I think, 10, 15 years. And they sold their house to move to another house, and they got a check for $100,000 because that's how much equity they had built up in their house. When you move out of an apartment, you do not do that. You do not get that amount of equity. I mean, you don't have any equity in an apartment. When you move, spent 10 years paying $18,000 a year. Let's just say you spent $12,000 a year in an apartment, $1,000 a month. very rare in Atlanta. I don't know where you live. It may be possible where you live, but rare in Atlanta. But $1,000 a month, and you spent $12,000 at the end of the year. In 10 years, you would have spent $120,000. You don't get maybe 10,000 of that. You don't get $5,000 of that. You don't get none of that. But if you had a house, you might have been able to get a $100,000 check, and you were still paying for a bigger space than what you would have had in an apartment. Now, in order for this person's, I got to go back and see if I said his name already, but in order to put this person's analogy into a proper context, you would have to be renting a 3,000 square foot apartment to make it make sense compared to what he's saying in this video. And a 3,000 square foot apartment, I looked it up, on average, if you can find them, because they're rare to find a 3,000 square foot apartment. I was seeing numbers $4,000 or $5,000 a month for a 3,000 square foot apartment. It's rare to even see them. They don't usually go up that high. You might have to rent 2 apartments to get that kind of square footage. But basically, you're going to be paying more than double what it would cost to own a home. These are the real numbers. Now, in his defense, which I can't defend him because his statement was improper from the jump, but if you were to say you were someone who had a high income and you may move around a lot, maybe you're an artist or some kind of super exec CEO type that just spends 2 years here, then 2 years here, then 3 years here, which I would not want that lifestyle personally. I was in the military. I do not want to. I want to have, most people want to be somewhere. So, well, in my opinion, I would think that most people actually want to have stability, a foundation, which is crazy that they're preaching against this. They're telling people, you may want to actually get a place to call home, stay prepared to move around. I don't understand this, because so much about getting your life together is based around stability. Now, when you're a multi-millionaire, Desperation millionaire, 100 millionaire or something like that, a billionaire, yeah, you might want to be in a mansion. You know what I'm saying? Maybe 3,000 square feet isn't enough for you. Maybe you need a 20,000 square foot home. And in that situation, when you're going to be paying $5,000 and $6,000 a month in rent to rent a house versus having to come up out of pocket 20% of $2 million, you know what I'm saying? Maybe then it makes sense, because you may want to just ride that house for a year or something like that, or 2 years, and then say, you know what, now I want to go to a smaller house, or maybe I want to go to an even bigger house. Maybe then, maybe if you're in that situation, I could see that, right? I could see, let's say you had to put 20% down of $1 million, right? You're going to buy $1 million house. That's $200,000. That's a lot of money to come out of pocket just to put down, right? And then it may not be a lot of $1 million homes, say in the Atlanta area. Now, if you was in California, it's a dime a dozen. But if you were in Atlanta, it might not be a lot of $1 million homes selling super fast, right? But, so in that situation, it might be worth it to just rent some other millionaire's home for a year or 6 months, and then move somewhere else, and then move somewhere else. That might be a better situation, because even at $5,000 a month, for 12 months, it's only $60,000. It might make sense for you to rent for $60,000 if you don't want to live like in a normal size house. If you want to live in a huge mansion, 10,000, 20,000 square feet, 15,000 square feet, stuff like that, that might make sense, because you don't come out of pocket with that money up front. Now, another thing about his argument was, he was basically saying that with this money that, because you're renting instead of buying a home, you'll be able to invest. That makes no sense. You're actually going to have less money than you would have had you had a home, and because you're going to be paying more, and you're not going to be having the equity built up over that time frame while you're saving. Because what I can do, say in 10 years, right now, I think my house worth around 300,000 or something like that here. And you can, and I owe less than 220 or something, right? But that's 80,000 in equity. Now I know I can't take the whole part out unless I did a cash out refinance. But the point is, if you were to wait 10 years, if I were to wait 10 years and the value of my home is constantly going up and I'm paying it down in a 10-year time frame, this could have been my savings plan. Say if I really wanted to get into commercial real estate or buy a duplex or quadruplex in a 10-year time frame, I would have more, because I have about 80,000 in equity now. And this is just one home. I have another home as well. So I have over $100,000 in equity, but all I did was just hold them. I didn't have to do anything else. The other one is rented out. I live here and, make money here as well. So, it's paying for itself. But if you were trying to look at like what he was saying and you wanted to break it down, his entire argument was false. Or at the very least, it was untrue because not everybody is in that same situation. I don't want to be long-winded here. I just felt like, because I was in the comment section, I saw these people agreeing with what he's saying, and they make the numbers don't even make sense. People are just listening to people because they like them or something, or because they rich already. Just because somebody else is rich, he ain't even get rich per se off of that. He got money from sales and other things, and then he invested in that. And then he sells you on the idea that he knows real estate, which he may, but he brings in investors. He raises money. He raises capital. He's a great, great salesman. As in speaking of sales, please smash the like button on this video. Let's try and get this ranked up. And also I have an ebook in the description if you wanted to learn how I started my trucking business. I got my own authority, and it can show you what the process is for doing the same thing. Anyway, right now you're watching Casino Is the Name, man. If you find any value in this video, man, like, comment, subscribe, and holla at your boy. Hey, yo, what's going on? Right now you're watching Casino Is the Name, and if you want to know how I started my trucking business, I have an ebook called Big Shot, Hot Shot, Volume 1, on your trucking authority. The link is going to be in the description. It'll pretty much tell you everything from if the taxes to different types of trailers and all sorts of things. It's a great book, 5-star reviews. Link will be in the description. Go get it. Yeah.
Beat me up, Scotty. Me and
her together, we just count it up. Money on my mind, I can't get enough. Don't play with my money, you don't want no beef. Cause I come from the bottom, I come from the street. When she first saw me, she said, who is that? When a man saw me, he called me a threat. I'm the one that really live, wanna rap. They ain't never did it, they ain't really trap.
Say you want to be successful. Well, what's stopping you? Can't nothing stop you from being successful except for you. You standing in your own way. I came from the bottom. I ain't know nothing but the grind. You can't tell me nothing about that. I caught the bus at Basin Street Projects in Tallahassee, Florida. You hear me? I used to think $1 million would last me my whole life. I'd have made that and spent that. $1 million ain't enough. There are hedge fund managers making $1 million an hour. You know, it's crazy, right? There's money everywhere. There's money in everything. I want to help you. Start your business today. Come join my royal family. Subscribe to Casino is the name.